All right, cool. I'm Evan Booth. In 1970, in April, NASA launched the seventh mission in the now legendary Apollo series. So the goal was to get 3 astronauts here. And this is actually our third attempt to go to the moon. And the mission was Apollo 13, of course, and you guys are probably familiar with this story. The launch was not without its hiccups here and there. And how was the audio now? Can everybody hear me all right? Is it iffy? Okay, cool. The launch was not without its hiccups, but they did make it to space okay, so nothing mission critical. However, just under 56 hours into the mission, they did a routine procedure where they started some stirring fans to mix the oxygen and hydrogen tanks. And when they did this, some faulty insulation caused a short, which caused a fire, which resulted in oxygen tank number 2 to get heated beyond capacity and explode. And that's when we heard this for the very first time.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
Can y'all hear that? Sound like static. But it was the Houston, we have a problem, right? And what happened was, when the oxygen tank exploded, it damaged some critical wiring and damaged some of the fuel cells. And essentially forced all 3 astronauts out of the service and command module into the lunar module. And the problem with that was that the lunar module was only built to support, its life support system was only meant to hold 2 men for a day and a half at most, not 3 men for 4 days. So NASA, being NASA, they anticipated this problem and started working on the ground on a solution. So the issue was that the lithium hydroxide filter inside the lunar module was round. And they had access to lithium hydroxide filters in the service module, but those happen to be square. So it is literally the square peg in the round hole, right? And this is like an infomercial, right? Like, tired of buying lithium hydroxide filters, only to find out they don't work for all your spacecraft? Wah, wah. So yeah, obviously this is a problem. They started working on this. Holy crap. And what they came up with was, I might stop pacing, I might do it. What they came up with is what they now call the mailbox rig, where they took a piece of plastic bag, they took the cover off the flight plan, took some hosing, duct tape, and cobbled all this together on the ground to build this filter that would now plug into the filter inside the lunar module. And what this did is it decreased the CO2 levels in the air such that the astronauts can stay alive. And the astronauts were able to reproduce this using materials that they had on hand inside the spacecraft. And you guys probably know this story. Raise your hand if you know this story. A lot of you, right? The thing that really fascinated me about this story was this man. This is Ed Smiley. He's the chief of the Crew Systems Division. And this guy, along with his assistant, they were the ones that spearheaded the design and testing of the mailbox rig on the ground. And what really stood out to me was something that he said in an interview after the astronauts landed safely and all the smoke settled, literally and figuratively. He said this. He said, when we found out we had duct tape on board, we were pretty well home free. And that doesn't sound too crazy, because we all know the value of duct tape here, right? It's pretty awesome stuff. But really take a second, think about just the weight behind that statement right there. He's not fixing a tire on a bicycle or a fender, right? This is a frickin' NASA rocket scientist, right? This is NASA. This is millions and millions of dollars into this program. Some of the smartest people in the country working on this one mission for who knows how months and months and months, right? Planning out every contingency to the nth degree. And here they are, right, with three astronauts' lives on the line, right? These are not like silly people that did something stupid and fell in a hole, right? They're stuck in a hole and they're going to die. No, these are astronauts. The entire world is looking at these guys, right, and seeing what we're going to do next. And here is Ed Smiley, and he's like, oh, we got duct tape. Dude, it's no problem. We're good, right? So like, think about that. Like, how many of us, I have to wonder, how many of us approach problems like that, like Ed Smiley, in our organizations? Right? Using the fundamentals and knowing nothing else. Like, how many people are confident that every problem like that has a solution without throwing tools at it? This guy right here in the red shirt. Nicely done. So yeah, what I want to talk to you about today is kind of the spirit behind that comment. And that's the just creative problem solving. And I'm calling this talk Demystifying MacGyver. And I was standing in the back of the room and I saw enough bald spots to believe that most of you are familiar with MacGyver, yes? Show of hands. Anyone not? All right, okay, cool. So that's good. You know, MacGyver is like amazing. You put him in any situation, he can get out of it, you know, by using stuff around him. He's brilliant. But real quick, like I said, my name is Evan Booth. Here are a few ways to get a hold of me. And I go by the handle treefort. Does anyone do handles anymore? I don't know. I do. But if that's too many syllables, I just go by fort. That's fine. Real quick, I apologize for my voice. I have no follow-up to that. I just really don't like my voice. Now, like I've been coughing and stuff, so I sound kind of nasty. But in 2010, I co-founded a lock sport organization called FAIL. It's a recursive acronym for Fail Association of Lock Sport Enthusiasts. You're welcome for that. So we get together and we pick locks and drink and stuff, and we come to conferences, set up lock pick villages, and talk to people like you guys. And only recently I found out that we are officially ordained as ministers in the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. That's not Photoshop. Like, I can't even make this stuff up. But today we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about airport security, creative problem solving, and counting fundamentals. Now, in early last year, I started a project, an independent research project that I called Terminal Cornucopia. And the goal of this project was really to suss out one problem. And that problem was that I thought for years that after you get through security, you could use just the stuff around you to make lethal weapons. Now, with any research, like, you've got to have some constraints, and I had three simple ones, right? So the first, I could only use materials that I could source either for free or something you could buy after you get through security. I had to go through security and get up to the other side with nothing but cash and a small travel-approved multi-tool. It's like a little micro Leatherman with no knife, basically. It's got little scissors, basically pliers, scissors, screwdriver, file. And three, anything you get yelled at for taking or messing with, completely off limits. Can't touch it, right? So I went to a lot of airports, and I found a lot of really interesting stuff, a huge variety of stuff. And I built a lot of weapons. And really, like, I tried to keep this stuff simple, and I wouldn't say that I got much past basic mechanics and, like, high school chemistry at best. So I built a lot of stuff, and I've kind of condensed all that into this video.
like a wrecking ball. I never hit so hard in love.
It's a long story. Anyone play Assassin's Creed? I do. So yeah, that was kind of the result of a year. But that's not quite all. Hey, any questions? I'm just kidding. So I got a call later in the year from these guys, and they wanted to come spend a few days with me and make some weapons, blow some things up. So I knew I had to do something fun. I wanted to build a weapon with kind of based on the Fraga Chino. Oh, hey, there's me. Hello. That's kind of nice. It's a feature. I wanted to make a weapon based on the Fraga Chino, actually 10 of them. And that kind of resulted in my personal best for creepiest Walmart purchase ever. All I needed was some rope, or I don't know. I'm not giving you guys any ideas. So yeah, I ended up with something like this, right? This 10 Fraga Chinos, and in the very center of this is a mason jar, and in that I filled it with a lot of lithium metal that I got from batteries. And then above that lithium metal, I had a condom filled with about 2 ounces of water, a very thin wire wrapped around that condom. And those two leads were running to an array of 9 volts, which equated to about 72 volts, right? And this circuit's closed when you push the button on a remote, which makes a toy airplane roll forward, which in turn closes the circuit, right? I didn't realize until I got into the field that I had a box of spent 9 volts, so I had to wire it up manually. But what I was going for was something that would kind of explode into a bunch of different directions and then continue to explode. So yeah, the resulting fiasco was probably 20, 25 minutes long, so I've shortened that down, sped up the boring parts. Here it is. And just in case you missed that, this is a polycarbonate plus ABS hardshell piece of luggage. And like down at the bottom, if you look, like there's this Fraga Chino that just shoots out like a rocket. Like, watch this. He's like, freedom! All right, it continues. So this one very nearly took out the other camera. Watch this. Woo! That was a clincher. And it burned for a long time. Until... You ready for this? In slow-mo. This is how Michael Bay takes a condom off, right here. That's ridiculous. Yeah, it is still going, I guess. And you'll notice I started little fires like out from a distance there. So I eventually had to go put that out. And this burned for some time. So, can you build deadly weapons in an airport after you go through security? The conclusion is yes, very yes. Armor God, yes. So I talked about this in some conferences last year, and without fail, a question that came up consistently was, how do you come up with this stuff? Which is a fantastic question. And I started taking 10, 15 minutes of my talk and addressing just that, kind of my creative process and all that. But what are we talking about here? We're talking about creative problem solving. And since the name of this talk is Demystifying MacGyver, we're going to talk a lot about this guy. And he's holding a missile. Just throwing that out there. So his superpower, right, is to take this and ultimately diffuse this. There's got to be a lot of steps in between. But let's look at it, right? He's doing creative problem solving. So problem here has a neutral connotation. This is not problem in the sense that, Houston, we have a problem, or like MacGyver's problems of someone trying to set him on fire or blow him up. Right? This is just like the problem your chair is solving right now is keeping you a few feet off the ground, right? It's a happy problem. So I think that creative problem solving has kind of four main components. The first is knowledge, experience, preparation, and creativity. So let's look at these real quick. So knowledge, when you're trying to duplicate functionality or augment it or change it or modify it, I found that it really helps to look at problems more as a collection of systems and forces. Right? It basically just remove the smoke and mirrors. And here's some examples, right? So what am I talking about when I say that gravity pushes water in a reservoir through a one-way valve into an aluminum tube? where the water is heated until boiling by electric current running through metal coils, which forces the water up to a thin tube before being sprayed evenly onto a perforated container. What is that? That's every drip coffee maker. Who said that? You, sir. Every drip coffee maker you've used since the 50s, right? Technology is the same. This one's a little harder. A momentary switch is closed, triggering an integrated circuit to raise and lower the voltage of an infrared LED in a predetermined binary pattern that corresponds to a momentary switch that was closed. Bam. Who was that? You're on it. You can't answer the next one. Okay, cool. Well, you have all the... Oh, cheat. Okay, so this one. Water and ammonium nitrate mix to create an endothermic reaction when a container separating the water from the ammonium nitrate is ruptured. Instant ice pack. Nice. You guys got 3 of 3. MacGyver will be pleased. Okay, so... and he looks pleased. So MacGyver, right, he utilizes knowledge to look at this. And because he knows about the systems and the forces in play, he actually sees this, right? And because he sees this, he's eventually able to diffuse this. And there's kind of 2 ways you could do that, right? You could look and have X-ray vision into a hairdryer, know what's inside, know how it works. You could either maintain a working knowledge of basically everything ever, or you could just keep your phone handy, which is kind of what I do. All right, so that's knowledge. Let's talk about experience. Practice has a sidekick. His name is theory, right? I really genuinely believe most of us in this room could lock ourselves away with a laptop and YouTube and Google and emerge a few days later and understand all the bits and pieces of how to neuter a cat, right? Can you guys, who thinks you could do that in here? Pretty much, you're afraid to raise your hand. I don't want to neuter a cat. Right, but all of the knowledge in the world, right? All of that knowledge is basically worthless without that experience. And there's a few reasons for that. I think a small one is that that experience helps you improve dexterity. It gives you a familiarity with the tools involved. But the biggest one is it teaches you how to troubleshoot, right? It teaches you how to fail. In my opinion, I think experience doesn't always necessarily have to be hands-on. So, quick story. When I was younger, my brother and I would spend our summers in Kentucky, rural Kentucky. And my grandparents lived there, and they had a Christmas tree farm. So every day, my grandpa would get home from the Christmas tree farm, and we would pile in the back of the truck and drive to this locally owned gas station, hole-in-the-wall place, and we would get an Ale 8. Anyone had an Ale 8 in here? It's Kentucky's amazing soft drink. A few of you were great. But on the way, right, in this 10 to 15-minute drive, I would see this phenomenon in rural Kentucky, where people would just kind of once they got done with their stuff, they just sort of put it outside, right? It's like a Cracker Barrel mixed with a museum, mixed with a yard sale. It's interesting. But what I would do is I would imagine myself running alongside the car and trying to build something, right? So I'm grabbing a hose here, a tire there, an axle from an old tractor, and I'm trying to build a helicopter. And of course, I gave myself a lot of leeway and flexibility and what's actually feasible and what's not. But it was interesting because after the summer, towards the end, sometimes I'd get to the destination, drink my Ale 8, and feel like I'd actually built something that was somewhat feasible. I did a little better today than yesterday, right? So I don't think experience always necessarily has to be hands-on. And what I would challenge you to do is next time you're in Lowe's or Home Depot and you're killing some time, wander around the aisles and think about, in an hour, this place is going to be flooded, exits are blocked, and there's piranhas in the water. What do I do? Using the stuff around me. And just walk around and think through that problem. Think through how you'd solve that, and have fun with it. Or ninjas are going to descend on the building, and you have to defend yourself. What weapons do you build? What do you do? It's fun times. So MacGyver, he uses experience like this. So he's able to look at this, and he has the knowledge of the systems and forces. So he sees this, right? And he knows that he can use this, the plug, to shim his way out of these handcuffs behind his back. And he has the dexterity required to do that because he's done it, right? And ultimately, he's able to diffuse this with it. Cool. So that's experience. So preparation. This one's pretty simple, right? So what's the one thing that MacGyver had with him all the time? Tube socks, right. Okay. No, he had his MacGyver knife. His Swiss Army knife. And this thing was amazing, right? It could do anything. And of course, if we want to be as effective as MacGyver, we might need a knife more like this. And there's a slide whistle on here. This actually glows blue when orcs are present. That's good. Good to know. And so like the call to action here, I think, is just reevaluate your daily carry. And daily carry is just stuff you put on you every single day. Lay it out, look at it, think about your capabilities with this stuff you have on you all the time, and think about what you'd like to be able to do with it, right? And if you want some inspiration, I would suggest you go here, right? Who is a Redditor in here? Who likes Reddit? A few of you. Okay, cool. There's a subreddit called EDC, and all they do is they post pictures of people's everyday carry, what they do for a living, how old they are. It's amazing. So MacGyver, right? He is able to look at this, and he can see this, right? He has the experience to know that he can get out of these cuffs with the plug, and he has this on, so he's able to take this thing apart and extract the ceramic plate, which he knows will break tempered glass, right? Able to escape and eventually diffuse this. So the last thing is creativity. And I'm not an expert by any means in creativity, but I'll talk about my process some. And when I talk about creativity, especially with a group like you guys or business professionals, I get a lot of this. Like, people shut down. I'm not creative. It's not for me, right? But sure you are. And it's not even your fault, right? See, there's a section of your brain called the iratus congia, right? It's this giant piece here. And if you look at the scans, it's actually, yeah, that's not right. Okay, iratus congia, that's actually Latin for angry shoelaces. And that there is Christopher Walken. So fortunately, I don't think you need to know anything about the brain to understand that you're creative. Let's take a different approach. Who in here dreams? Everybody dreams. In your dreams, right? It's usually you, and you're doing whatever, and you're at your desk. This is normal stuff, and you're getting work done. Your boss comes in and says, "Fantastic job. You're a valuable asset to the company." Yeah, feels great. And you wake up, right? Not so much, right? So all of a sudden, your desk becomes a bear with a tie. And like, whatever, that's cool. I'm going to ride my desk bear and play with my gun that shoots Wikipedia articles, right? Which is great until your teeth fall out and you get penciled. And then all of a sudden, Tony Danza, right? These are dreams, and right? Come on. So everyone is creative. We all have the necessary hardware to create, right? When we sleep, our brains are like, yeah! 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 And then we wake up, and it's like, yeah! Yeah! Oh! Oh, man. This kind of sucks. I am out of here. And I stole your TV. And your noggin. And your VGA cable. What's the problem? It's obviously you, right? Or us. You, it's just you. Our brains are cool and they're having fun, right? And we wake up and it's like, whoa, ho, oh, Tony Danza, no, I don't know that guy. He's creepy. So we tend to shuffle these thoughts away. They don't make perfect sense in our world. It's how we survive, right? Why do we do this? I think there are a few reasons. The biggest one, I think, is just simply fear and shame. Right, there's a lot of things to be afraid of when you're thinking creatively. The obvious ones are people are going to hear your ideas, and they're going to think that they're stupid. Or even worse, they're going to think that you're stupid, right? And works in reverse, too. So someone hears you give a good idea or something. Now you're the good idea guy, and you have to deliver on that. Like, quit while I'm ahead. No. Or that's a great idea. Why don't you execute that in the company? And see it through. So now you have the opportunity to fail. Fantastic. So, fear and shame. Another is pragmatism, and I think a lot of us do this. We feel like if we're going to sit down and think about a problem, and the problem is something that requires some out-of-the-box thinking, we feel like we have to emerge from this brainstorming session with actionable, practical ideas that we can just take away, that we can immediately put into effect. But that's not really how it works. I tend to think that ideas are more the raw material and not quite the finished product. So quick example, think about skipping a stone, okay? There's a lot of components to this. You've got the actual fluid dynamics and the physics involved. You've got the athletic component, the best way to hold the stone, the best outfit to wear when you do it, and the best way to throw it, even the water, right? Have enough space, that water needs to be still enough. And then people think of ideas as this whole picture, right? But ideas are just the stone. the more of them you have, the better chance you have of finding the perfect one for skipping. And it's okay, because the more ideas you have, it's great, because, I mean, you'll go through a lot of them, because stones are good for all sorts of things that aren't skipping, right? Cool. Another is projection, and this is simply looking at the execution of someone's creativity and mistaking it for creativity itself. So, like, holy crap, did you see Phil's filing system? It's ridiculous. I would have never thought of that. I'm not creative. Oh, my sister baked a cake, right? And it's got like literally a chocolate like lava water fountain. I don't know how she does that. It's amazing. She's so creative. I can never do that. Like, that's not me. I'm not creative. But that's a mistake, right? That's looking at someone else's execution. A big one is distractions. And I'm guilty of this, because like, man, like the closer like my information gets to my face, the worse it is, right? It's tough to carve out like an hour just to think about things. But John Cleese, who co-founded Monty Python, he talks a lot about creativity, and he describes it as a flow, right? It's something you have to work into. It's not something you just turn on and get going with it. So, and he says that it's crucial in any kind of creative thinking to carve out two things: space and time, right? And without that, without doing that and being intentional about that, you're not going to have any good results, right? And anyone I hear like people say that they get the best ideas in the shower? Why do you think that is? I think it's because your brain is like you're looking at a wall, it's blank, and it's like 3 feet in front of you, and you're doing like the stuff that hopefully you do like every other day, hopefully. And your brain's like, dude, let's play or change the channel or something, right? So distractions are huge, and like this is a big deal because if you think about all the progress we've made in computing and in like artificial intelligence, even in the last like 20, 30 years, like we haven't made anything that can come close to stringing thoughts together and having an epiphany, right? Like that's our superpower, and all we have to do is take time to do it, right? So necessity is another, and you know a lot of people feel that my job doesn't really require creativity, but really think about like the core of your job. All it is processes and procedures and formats, right? That someone created at some point. You're doing them. So if they suck, redo them. It's a freebie. Yeah. So cool. So your brain, so Sheriff, why is that? We could do a few things about this. But first, like, back to creative problem solving, it's kind of the accumulation of knowledge, experience, preparation, and creativity. So a few things that we can do that will just naturally help us to utilize this more often. I think the biggest one is simple. Find what you love doing and freaking do it, right? Like, I don't mean like, when I say love doing something, let me qualify that. Like, I mean something that changes you physically, like the thing that gets you so excited, like you really can't breathe quite right. And it's the thing that you could wake up miraculously without an alarm clock, to go do because you're excited about doing it. And it's the thing that like you never get tired when you're doing, or you could talk, in like forever about it because you're crazy about this thing, right? And it's like, what does that look like in real life? These are passenger pigeons. And I was reading an article in the New York Times and came across this quote. The first time Ben Novak saw a passenger pigeon, he fell to his knees, remained in that position, speechless for 20 minutes. He was 16. At 13, Novak vowed to devote his life to resurrecting extinct animals. At 14, he saw a photograph of a passenger pigeon in Audubon Society magazine and fell in love. Like, this is the guy I want working on this, right? He's obviously the man for the job. So it also looks like this. Like, this seems silly. This is a grown man. But this man is an expert at something, right? Like, he is a subject matter expert. Like, how many of us can really say that? And he's passionate about this, and it's awesome. So this guy, Jason Scott, summed it up better than I ever could, so here we go.
The bulletin board system plays an important part in my own personal history, which is why so much of the projects that I've done have been associated with them. So as a youth, when I was born in 1970, my father brought computers home when I was 8, and by the time I was 11, I was on computer bulletin boards. And whereas a lot of people would be on them at that age just to kind of cruise them, get software, do messages, I had this compulsion to go onto their file sections and download everything I could. But not just that, go onto the message bases and print them out. Print out the user lists, print out anything I could find, and store it. And that's the other part, store it. Store it enough that I still have them all. And, you know, that's a very odd compulsion to have, but I had it from a very young age. And one can try to figure out why that is, and I'm sure that I've got some guys who will gladly accept $60 an hour from me to find out why. But to me, a lot of it was just that it was so goddamn fascinating.
Right? So a lot of people could probably do that. You know, this guy is now like the internet historian, right? And that job, I'm sure some of you are qualified for. But this man is passionate about it, right? And he's doing that. Thank God he's doing that. So I think we're really designed to be passionate about stuff. And a lot of you like probably think, well, I mean, that's probably my job. That is probably not your job. That's very likely. Just because you're able to pay bills and stuff like that, that's fantastic. But honestly, like, you know, for the sake of humanity, and especially for the sake of this community, like, if you find yourself doing the same crap, like, day in and day out, just because you're capable of the work, go out and find something you love doing, and, like, do that thing, please. And then when you find that thing, do it unapologetically. And that won't be a problem, because if you're really crazy about it, you'll do it anyway. So this is a fantastic place to start, right? People who organize these conferences, they get it, because they bring in a bunch of different things for you to try. Like, if you go to the vendor area, there's lock picking, there's a maker section, there's CTF. Like, these things are just like low barrier to entry, easy ways to get into stuff that you would have never done otherwise, right? Find something you love doing and freaking do it. So number 2, and this will help a lot with the first, realize that right now you know absolutely everything. And this is not the case, like, not long ago, right? So, like, this is an invitation to the first, like, homebrew computer club in Silicon Valley in 1975, right? Silos of knowledge and skill, like, these don't exist anymore, right, because of the internet. Like, people still flock to certain places because, like, that's where the creative, thoughts coming and all that. But, like, if you want to learn something and try it, like, the best skill you could have to do that is finding and vetting relevant information, right? So, quick example. When I was younger, I played a game called Quake, the first Quake. This is on PC. And I was playing, and I realized, holy crap, there's these mods I could download and change the game. And, like, these weren't made by people who made the original game. This blew my mind. So I wanted to figure out how to do this, so I got online. God, maybe Mom's on the line. God, freaking A. Okay, fine. Okay, God. So I found, I search engine. This was not Google at the time. I search engine how to build mods in Quake, and I found Quake C. Printed out the manual, and really this is kind of like one of my first introductions to programming. And that's what I do for a living. Like, this literally shaped the trajectory of my career, right? Because I had the gumption to go look and figure out how to do something. This was 1996. So these days, like, if you want to know something, like, or try something, or find something you're passionate about doing, there's 0 barriers to entry to do that, right? You could learn how to do it all by yourself. You don't have to go find someone or bother someone. No one has to be involved but you and your phone or your laptop, right? And if you suck at Googling things, and I know some of you probably do, and it's okay, try this out, googleaday.com, right? They give you some tidbit of, like, obscure information to find. You've got to use your Google foo to find it, and it teaches you how to do that. It's brilliant. Go do that. It's awesome. Number 3, simply start small. Like, if you kind of want to start thinking creatively, you don't have to take on a project that's got, like, wide exposure, like redesign the logo for your company, or whatever, or organize a platter of food. I don't know, whatever it is. You could start small, and this is stupid stuff. This is stuff no one cares about, right? This is how you tie your tie, or tie a scarf on. This is like how you fill out your bank deposits and all this stuff. How you set your table. Next time you're spreading icing on a cake, for whatever reason, like, make that yours. Do it the way that you want to do it. Like, do it the way that everyone else does, but no, put your fingerprint on it. Actually take your time on that. And it's a lot of fun because no one cares, right? It's just for you. And if you start doing that, you'll find that, like, you'll start utilizing that creative thinking. And when you actually do have a problem that you have to apply, like, some serious thought to, it won't be completely unfamiliar territory. So number 4, and this is huge, learn how to fail, right? Nay, fail gloriously. So when is the last time that you, like, set yourself up to completely fail and was okay with that? And I know you guys are thinking, like, I'm kind of old, so if If I'm all of a sudden trying a bunch of new stuff, then it's going to freak people out. Like people are going to be weirded out by that. And that's not me. I don't try new things, and people are going to think I'm having a midlife crisis and all this stuff. And that's bad news. But you guys are security professionals, so don't tell anyone, right? If you want to try pottery out, like make that a secret op. Like this is like a perfect opportunity to practice your OPSEC, right? Don't tell anyone. Like don't set yourself up for any kind of expectations. You don't have to follow anyone up and anything. And like make a stash in your house. That would be fun to do. All right, do it. Do things that would like land you in therapy if you did it as a child. and like as you're trying new things and you're thinking creatively and you're writing things down and you're looking for things that you're absolutely crazy and passionate about, remember this. And a fantastic example of that, and like you could be as creative as you want to be, but until people value the output of that, like, it is what it is. So like the kind of standard example is this guy, who died in 1890, and he died as a disturbed, like mentally disturbed guy who put strange things down on a canvas, right? He was like so little known, like no one really knew he died. And if it wasn't for his enterprising sister-in-law, like we would never have found his 2,000 pieces of artwork, ever, right? So we look at him and like think, oh, good Lord, like Vincent van Gogh is a brilliant painter, right? That's because we all value that. At the time, he was just doing what he wanted to do for no one else but himself, and he died that way, right? So what I guess I'm trying to say is like, if you're doing things and you're trying to get an affirmation from people about that, this is what you're going to end up doing. And just remember that unless you're like really into writing history books, leave that crap for somebody else, right? So, getting back to the man who is shooting fire from his fingertips here. I think I missed, this is like the Harry Potter episode of MacGyver. I don't know. So he's able to apply this and look at this. He has knowledge of what's inside, the systems and forces. He's able to see this. He can get out of his handcuffs with this, right? And he's able to take this, because he's prepared, and extract that ceramic plate, and break that tempered glass, find the bomb. Well, the only really unrealistic part about MacGyver is that everything kind of works the first time, right? It's not really accounting for the fact that things are going to fail. And that is very much a part of the glorious process, and that is perfectly okay. So, who has questions?